She asked for honesty. He gave her silence. She begged for freedom. He gave her something she'd never forget. By the time she realized what she lost, his revenge had already begun, and it was brutal. Let's begin. When Madison Blake opened her front door that morning, she didn't expect the knock to come from a flower delivery guy holding a bouquet of her least favorite flowers. Yellow tulips. The card simply read, "Because I thought of you, Tyler." She smiled, not because she liked tulips, but because it was typical Tyler Morgan. Thoughtful to a fault. Predictable to the core. Her boyfriend of 8 months, the guy everyone said was perfect husband material, was exactly that. Safe, gentle, consistent. Too consistent. At 21, Madison had never lived life on her own terms. She worked a low-paying job at a bookstore downtown, stocked shelves, greeted customers, and closed up shop by 8. Tyler, 24, worked in cybersecurity, always serious, always in control, with his head buried in laptops and logic. He'd pick her up at the exact same time every night. They'd grab takeout from one of 3 places. He knew her drink order, remembered to text good morning, never forgot an anniversary. Yet somehow, none of it made her heart race anymore. And Madison wanted to feel something. That something came in the form of a message from her past. Her ex-boyfriend, Jackson Reed. The name itself hit her stomach like caffeine on an empty stomach. They hadn't spoken in over a year, not since their explosive breakup after 2 passionate, chaotic years together. Jackson was the guy you fall for without thinking. The kind who pulls you into dangerous currents and dares you to swim harder. They'd laughed more, fought louder, made up faster. He'd broken her heart, but he'd also made her feel alive. "Hey," the message read. "Saw an old photo of us. Hope you're good." Just that. Nothing more. But to Madison, it was a spark in a house of dry leaves. She didn't respond immediately. She watched the message light up her phone, over and over again in her thoughts, until finally, she answered. "Didn't expect to hear from you." That's all it took. What followed was a string of nostalgic, playful messages, inside jokes, photos of their old favorite diner, remember when, lines that pulled on her emotions like guitar strings. Jackson made her laugh. Tyler made her yawn. The contrast was beginning to feel unbearable. She justified it. It's just conversation. She wasn't cheating. She was reconnecting. It's not like she was hiding anything. Well, except for the fact that she deleted every text before Tyler could ever see them. And it wasn't like Tyler didn't notice something was off. "You're distracted lately," he said one night while they were eating in silence. "No, just tired," she replied, not meeting his gaze. He reached for her hand. "You sure everything's okay?" Madison smiled, forced totally. But everything wasn't okay. She was craving something more than stability. She wanted passion, adventure, chaos even. She hated herself for it. Tyler had never wronged her. He was kind, patient, supportive. But he wasn't fire. And Jackson was gasoline on a matchstick. That weekend, she met Jackson for coffee. She told Tyler she had to stay late at work. The lie tasted metallic on her tongue, but she swallowed it. They hugged at the cafe. A little too long. And when Jackson leaned in and said, "You still look better than any memory I've got," she felt her knees go weak. Still, she didn't cross that line. Not yet. But something had shifted. When she came home, Tyler hugged her like he always did, but she flinched. It wasn't his arms she wanted anymore. Later that night, she brought up the idea of exploring. "What do you mean exploring?" Tyler asked, setting down his fork. "I mean, maybe people our age shouldn't tie themselves to just one person so soon. Maybe we could talk about an open relationship. Set boundaries. Be honest. See where we stand emotionally." His face drained of color. "Is there someone else, Madison?" She hesitated. "Too long. I've been talking to someone." "Just talking," she said. "And it made me realize I'm not ready to settle down yet. But I don't want to lose you either." Tyler stared at her for a long time, eyes unreadable. "You want me to let you go sleep with someone else while I sit here and wait?" "It's not like that," she said quickly. "It's about trust, about being open. You always said honesty was important, right?" He leaned back in his chair, jaw tightening. "That's not honesty. That's a negotiation to cheat with a conscience." She stood, tears pressing behind her eyes. "You're being unfair." He shook his head slowly. "No, Madison. You are." That night, they didn't speak again. She slept on the edge of the bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, heart thudding with a confusing mix of guilt and thrill. Days passed. Tyler went quiet, colder than she'd ever seen him. He didn't text first anymore, didn't offer to pick her up, and when she finally asked what was going on, he simply said, "I'm thinking." Jackson, on the other hand, was burning up her phone with teasing voice notes, late-night memories, and invitations to hang out again. She told herself she wasn't doing anything wrong. Not yet. She was just keeping her options open. What she didn't realize, what she couldn't know, was that Tyler wasn't just sitting in silence. He was watching. He was planning. And when he struck, it wouldn't be loud. It would be devastating. Madison thought the worst was over. After that fight, Tyler didn't break up with her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her of anything publicly or post dramatic quotes online. He just pulled back, quietly. And that quiet made her believe she still had control. Tyler still texted, but only when necessary. He still picked her up from work, but the music was always low, and he barely spoke. His smile had disappeared, replaced by a tight line. The warmth was gone, and yet, he never ended things. To Madison, it was a green light to drift further. She told herself, if he really cared, he'd fight harder. She had no idea he was fighting, just not in a way she'd recognize. Jackson had slipped right back into her life like he belonged. They weren't physical yet, but the intimacy was undeniable. They'd talk until 2 a.m. He'd send her voice messages that made her stomach flip. Meanwhile, Tyler began spending late hours at his office, working on a project, he said. She never thought to question it. While she was busy romanticizing chaos, Tyler was turning heartbreak into strategy. He went back through every conversation, every location ping, every shared calendar entry. As someone in cybersecurity, he had access to more digital footprints than Madison realized. And he found it. The lie about staying late at work, the coffee shop receipt, a parking ticket near Jackson's apartment. But Tyler didn't explode. He archived everything. Calm, cold, methodical. Back in Madison's world, she felt a newfound boldness. She started reading articles about ethical non-monogamy, aloud in the apartment, tossing terms like emotional autonomy and romantic agency at Tyler. He would nod quietly, responding only with, "Interesting," or "That's one way to look at it." She mistook his silence for consideration. But Tyler was beyond discussion. He was now designing the terms of his own exit, one she would never forget. And still, Madison told herself she wasn't the villain. She was just being honest about her desires. She craved freedom, emotion, chemistry. She wanted to feel alive again. Was that such a crime? Late one Friday night, Jackson invited her to a rooftop bar. She told Tyler she was staying over at a friend's house. He simply nodded. "Have fun," he said, not even glancing up from his laptop. Madison did go out. And this time, she kissed Jackson. And this time, she didn't feel guilty. She didn't see Tyler's car across the street. Didn't know he was watching, recording, silently documenting the betrayal that would soon become a chess piece in his plan. The next morning, she came home glowing. "Did you have fun?" Tyler asked, calmly sipping his coffee. Madison blinked, caught off guard. "Yeah, it was good. Just chill." He didn't look up. "Cool." That was all he said. She went about her day, blissfully unaware that Tyler had already submitted a formal break lease request for their apartment, that he had already moved his most important belongings into a secure storage locker, that he had already spoken to her employer. Yes, her employer. Tyler had found out about a book signing Madison was planning for a major author. She'd been coordinating it for weeks. It was the biggest event their bookstore would host all year. Tyler used one of his industry contacts to subtly sabotage the event. Nothing obvious, nothing that could be traced, just enough to derail it. The supplier canceled. The author pulled out. The store manager blamed Madison. She came home crying, venting to Tyler about how unfair it was. "That sucks," he said flatly. "Must feel terrible when people don't believe in your intentions." She didn't notice the venom behind his words. Over the next week, everything started to unravel for her. She lost her shift hours. Jackson began responding with one-word texts. "Busy. Later. Can't talk RN." And Tyler? Tyler began staying out later, dressing sharper, wearing cologne again. One night, she finally asked, "Are you seeing someone?" He turned to her, smiled faintly. "Would it matter? I thought we were being emotionally autonomous now." That smile, calm, detached, scared her more than if he'd screamed. That night, she tried to scroll back to old messages with Jackson. He hadn't texted in 2 days. When she called, it rang twice, then went to voicemail. Her chest tightened. Something fell off. The next morning, she received a message from Jackson. Just one. Hey, I've been thinking. I'm seeing someone now. It's serious. You're amazing, but I think we should stop talking. Take care of yourself. Okay. Madison stared at her screen for a full minute before the tears came. And then came the panic. She had no Tyler, no Jackson, no job, no backup plan. And when she finally confronted Tyler, asked if they could at least talk, he calmly handed her an envelope. Her name, her signature, lease termination. I've already paid the next 2 months, he said. You'll have time to figure things out. She opened her mouth, but he raised his hand. I'm not angry, he said. I was. But then I realized you wanted freedom. He paused, looked her in the eyes. So I gave it to you. Then he left. No yelling. No revenge post. No final blowout. Just cold, calculated closure. But Tyler wasn't done. Not even close. He had one last move planned. Something Madison wouldn't see coming. Until her name went public. The silence was louder than any argument Madison had ever experienced. After Tyler left, the apartment fell hollow. His scent still lingered on the pillows. His side of the bed remained untouched. But the warmth, the security, gone. Replaced by a growing sense of dread. She tried reaching out. Can we talk? I miss you. Tyler, please. No replies. Meanwhile, her life was coming apart piece by piece. Her boss had cut her hours permanently, citing a lack of professionalism. Jackson had gone radio silent. The friends she thought were hers, most were actually his. They unfollowed her. Some even blocked her. The worst part, she couldn't even be angry. She chose this. She chose the thrill. She chose the chaos. And now she was alone. Then it happened. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Just a link. Nothing else. She hesitated, then clicked. A blog post. The headline read, When Honesty Becomes Selfishness, a first-hand account of being betrayed in the name of emotional growth. She froze. Scrolling down, it was unmistakably about her. Her words, her phrasing, quotes from their arguments. No names were used, but anyone who knew them would know. It had gone viral in a niche relationship advice forum. People were tearing into Madison, or rather, the girl who wanted to sleep with her ex and still keep her boyfriend. Thousands of comments. This is emotional manipulation disguised as enlightenment. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. That poor guy dodged a bullet. Her hands trembled. She knew who had written it. Tyler. It was his tone, his structure, his logic. And somehow, he hadn't said a single cruel word. That was the most brutal part. He was respectful, measured, calm. The article read like a philosophical think piece, not revenge. But it was revenge, and it was devastating. It wasn't just online. Someone from her town recognized the story. Then another. She started noticing sideways glances at the grocery store. Her name trended briefly in a local subreddit. Her manager at the bookstore called her in. Customers have been asking if it's true. It's making us look bad, he said. You might want to take some time off. She wasn't even sure if she still had a job after that. Days passed in a blur of shame, silence, and heartbreak. And then, just when she thought it couldn't get worse, Tyler made his next move. Madison opened her laptop one morning and saw a press release trending in the tech community. Tyler's startup, the one he'd been quietly building behind the scenes, had just received $2.8 million in seed funding. He was the talk of the town. Interviews. Praise. Even her former coworkers were sharing his success. One of the interview clips made her stomach knot. The biggest lesson I've learned in the last year. Tyler smiled at the camera. To invest only in what truly values you. No one should stay where they're tolerated instead of chosen. The interviewer laughed. Sound personal? Tyler just smiled again. You could say that. The message wasn't just for the viewers. It was for her. Madison slammed her laptop shut and screamed into the empty room. She had lost the man who cherished her. Lost the man she chased. Lost the job. Lost her reputation. And worst of all, she realized she had played herself. Every message to Tyler after that went unanswered. One last time, she typed out a long email. She poured her heart into it, told him she was wrong, that she understood now, that the grass hadn't just been brown on the other side. It had been scorched earth. His reply? Madison, I don't hate you. I just finally believe I deserve better. Take care. No hate. No anger. Just closure. Which, somehow, hurt more than if he'd screamed at her. Madison sat at the corner booth of a quiet cafe. The same cafe where she had once met Jackson with butterflies in her stomach and guilt in her chest. Now, it was just a place where the silence matched the emptiness she carried. She stirred her coffee without drinking it, glancing at the door every few minutes. Not out of hope, but out of habit. She wasn't waiting for anyone. Not anymore. No Jackson. No Tyler. She had tried reaching both of them. Tried explaining. Apologizing. Justifying. But all she got in return was the bitter taste of being ignored. Tyler had made it clear. He wasn't coming back. And Jackson? He had moved on long ago. Madison had seen a picture of him on Instagram, his arm around a new girl. The caption read, "Peace looks good on us." Peace. She barely remembered what that felt like. Back at her apartment. Now just her apartment. Madison sat on the edge of the bed. The silence was no longer calming. It was punishment. Her phone buzzed occasionally, but it was never who she hoped. Just notifications, news, and people she no longer connected with. She tried to distract herself, went for walks, signed up for a painting class, started journaling. But every page came back to the same question. How did I let it get this far? One afternoon, she saw Tyler's new girlfriend tagged in a photo. Her name was Haley. She was smart, warm, had a kind smile. She worked in cybersecurity too. They looked like equals, like partners. Madison stared at the photo longer than she wanted to. Tyler wasn't just happier. He looked free. And maybe that's what hurt the most. Because he had given her that exact thing, freedom, and she had no idea what to do with it. Later that week, she ran into Tyler by chance. At a bookstore of all places. He was with Haley. They were laughing. Tyler noticed her first. His smile didn't fade, it just softened. "Hey, Madison," he said, calm and polite. Haley smiled kindly, unaware of the storm in Madison's chest. "Hey," Madison forced a reply. "Didn't expect to see you here." Tyler nodded. Life's full of surprises. There was no bitterness, no anger, just distance. "I've been meaning to tell you," she started, but he gently interrupted. "It's okay. Really. We've both moved on." And just like that, the conversation ended. He walked away holding someone else's hand. And Madison? She stood there, realizing that all the words she had rehearsed didn't matter anymore. He had already said goodbye. Weeks passed. The season shifted. And Madison changed. Quietly, not dramatically. There was no grand comeback. No sudden success. No storybook apology accepted. Life just kept going. She got a new job at a local art studio. The pay wasn't great, but the atmosphere felt softer. She spent more time alone now. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. It gave her space to think, to reflect, to sit with her mistakes. One night, while helping clean up after a gallery event, her coworker made an offhand comment. "You're so grounded," the girl said. "You've got this calm energy, like someone who's been through something and came out wiser." Madison didn't reply right away, because the truth was, she had been through something, and it had changed her. She no longer chased adrenaline, no longer mistook chaos for passion. She stopped texting exes, stopped romanticizing people who had already let her go. For the first time in a long time, she started choosing herself, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Then, one rainy afternoon, an envelope arrived at her apartment. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "Madison, I'm not sending this out of anger. I just want to leave one last piece behind, something I never got to say in person. You were right about one thing. Honesty is important. But honesty without empathy can still break hearts. I hope someday you find a kind of love that feels like both fire and safety. But I also hope you never again treat someone's devotion like a placeholder while you search for more. This isn't bitterness. It's closure. We were just two people on different pages trying to write the same chapter. Be well, Tyler." She read it 3 times, then folded it carefully like something sacred. She didn't cry. Not this time. Because somewhere between losing him and losing herself, she had finally learned what it meant to be accountable. Tyler hadn't needed to destroy her to make his point. He didn't scream, didn't slander her, didn't humiliate her publicly. He simply stepped away and let the silence speak. And that silence had changed everything. Months later, Madison found herself back at that same rooftop bar, alone. She ordered ginger ale and looked out over the city, letting the wind tangle through her hair. She wasn't waiting for Jackson. She wasn't mourning Tyler. She was just breathing, healing. And this time, that was enough. Because not every story ends with getting someone back. Some stories end with finally understanding why you lost them in the first place.